And welcome into the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. I'm DJ Foster joining you this week. We got a lot of fun stuff to cover as Grand Valley State moves to 8-0 with a 35-17 victory over Hillsdale last week on the road. We'll talk to head coach Matt Mitchell about that when we come back. We'll also bring in associate head coach and eighth-year coach Jack Yin and senior defensive back Dante Carey on the show. Again, we'll talk about the victory over Hillsdale. We'll preview this upcoming game. Lakers are back at home against Findlay this Saturday night for the final regular season home game, a 7 p.m. start in Lubber Stadium. A lot of good stuff to cover here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. It's all presented by GVSUTeamShop.com, authentic Laker apparel for every game. We'll be right back after this break.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
And welcome back in the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. We're live from the Main Street Pub in Allendale. DJ Foster with you, of course, head coach Matt Mitchell. Tonight's show is being broadcast across the Grand Valley Sports Radio Network and can also be seen throughout Michigan on Xfinity 900. The show runs several times throughout the weekend, so check your local TV listings. You can also find this episode and all episodes of the GVSU Football Weekly Report on the GVSU Lakers YouTube page. Now it's time to bring in head coach Matt Mitchell of the 8-0 Grand Valley State Lakers as the Lakers came back from their first deficit of 2016. I think that's the stat we'll start with first, Mitch, as Hillsdale kicked a 35-yard field goal late in the third quarter, went up 17-14, and remarkably, that was the first time in the 2016 season you guys have trailed, and you certainly bounced back from it well, scoring 21 unanswered points to come back and get the road victory.
Yeah, I think that's the story of the game. Obviously, you know, it's pretty, I agree. I think great job by our kids. You hit the eighth game is the first time you've ever trailed for the entire season, so that was definitely some adversity that we had to face. You know, when we take a look at the game in the first half, you know, we knew heading into that football game that possessions were going to be limited. That's the style of play that Hillsdale has. I was taking a look at some statistics, you know, and the average FBS game, there's 13 possessions per game in the average FBS game, and that ball game, our offense only had 9 possessions the entire game. And so with limited number of possessions, you know, we knew it was going to be a tighter game. That's just the nature of the game and the way that the style of play was going to go. So, you know, in the first half, I don't feel like we played as well as we could defensively. You know, that style of play was new to us. I'm not making an excuse, but it's new to us. A lot of the teams that we had faced in the first part of our schedule had been one back, either no tight end teams or one back, one tight end teams. A lot of, you know, 4 or 3 wide receiver sets. Hillsdale implores more tight ends. They got 2-3 tight ends on the field. It's a different type of passing attack, a different type of running attack. And, you know, I think we struggled a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. They definitely did a good job of taking away our best position on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line. Credit to Coach Otterbein and their offensive staff. They kept those guys in a phone booth for the majority of the game. They were sprinting out. They were booting. They were just kind of taking our D-line out of the game. You know, but we stuck with it throughout the course of things. You know, offensively, the first possession we had when we drove down there and we had the ball with the 2nd and 2 on the 19-yard line was probably our sloppiest possession of the day. You know, we took a tackle for a loss on a run play, and then we called another run on a 3rd and 3 and didn't get it, and we had to settle for the field goal. We missed a field goal, which is uncharacteristic of that team also. So, you know, you can't afford to have bad offensive possessions. We had one bad offensive possession in the first half, and we didn't necessarily play the greatest defense. But, you know, we came in the halftime, made a few adjustments. They did come out and you know, play. Hillsdale played well. They took that lead. But then after that, we really settled in. I think our offense continued to stay explosive. We continued to be aggressive. Even when we had a lead, we did not go into a shell. We continued to try to throw the ball and make some plays, and our defense came up with some really big stops, and suddenly, the score is a 3-score game. When it got to a 3-score game, we knew we were in good shape. So people that listen to this broadcast and people that know Grand Valley football, there's 4 major statistics that I care about that correlate to winning football, and we won all 4 of those. We won the turnover margin, we won the explosive play margin, we won the third down conversion percentage differential, and we also in that game won red zone scoring efficiency. And so that was kind of the tail of the tape. Did they have some yards? Yeah, they had some yards between the 20s and did some things, but those critical times, those critical situations, third down and red zone when it really matters, I thought our defense stepped up and did a good job. So we had adversity, probably the most adversity we had in 2016. I think the most positive thing that comes out of that ball game, we never flinched. I don't think our coaches flinched. I don't think any of our players flinched. I think we dug in, and we continued to play, and we got the job done. And so I don't view it as escaping or surviving or anything like that. I view it as winning. Like, we went out and we won the football game. When we needed to win the game, and our guys got it done.
And you mentioned, you had 9 possessions, which is far less than you normally have in a regular game, and you knew that going in. So you knew possessions were you have to maximize your possessions, especially offensively, and you did, because you scored 5 touchdowns on 9 possessions.
Correct.
So that's obviously over half, and you punched in 3 of those, as I mentioned, after you trailed 17-14. Marty Carter with 2 touchdowns, and you had the big touchdown pass to Matt Williams too. So in the fourth quarter, when it came down to it, when it was game, a decisive kind of game break time, you guys found the way to make the plays and score 3 big touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think an important point too, DJ, is the way in which we scored on those possessions. We took the 4-point lead and we got the stop on defense, and they punted to us. We got the ball about midfield, and it was quarter break, and great time for us to get the offense on the sideline, and we knew we had a slant and go, a double move set up to Matt Williams. And so we called that play on the 50 on the first play coming out of possession, which I thought was a great call. A lot of times teams coming out of quarter breaks, things like that, will tend to play a little bit more base defense. We got him in the look we wanted. We max protected him, and Matt Williams ran a double move, and he was nobody around him. Bart put it on him. And I think that was great. There might have been a tendency, hey, you're up by 4 points. Let's try to run the ball, kill the clock. No, we stayed aggressive. And then when we had the 2-score lead, we went over to I went over to the offensive line. I think everybody said, hey, we got to run this ball, and we're going to try to grind this thing out. We're going to win it. And really proud of our offensive line, proud of Martavius Carter and Terrell Dorsey. I believe on that drive, it was a 9 or 10 play drive. We did not pass the ball one time. We ran it every single time. We got it down in there in the red zone, and we punched it a touchdown. And once we had that 3-score lead, and I looked up, and there was about 6 minutes left to go in the ball game, you felt pretty good just based on the style of play and what Hillsdale had to bring. And then they had to kind of throw it when they got down. And when they had to throw it to get down, then it started getting, our pass rush really got ramped up. And that's where we had sacks. We had our pressures and got off the field on 4th down a couple times because of our pass rush.
Here in the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell, we're here at the Main Street Pub in Allendale. This segment is brought to you by Cardinal Buses. Go in comfort, go in style, and go green. Go with Cardinal Buses. Mitch, those drives we just talked about in the fourth quarter, your scoring drives, 8 plays, 82 yards, 2 minutes, 40 seconds. The 1 play, 55-yard touchdown pass to Matt Williams, and then 8 plays for 81 yards in 3:31. Marty Carter was great, 26 carries for 205 yards, and he scored 3 times. But you mentioned Terrell Dorsey, 9 carries for 47 yards. So this was a physical game. It always is between Grand Valley State and Hillsdale, and you guys were certainly the more physical team up front.
I give Terrell Dorsey a lot of credit after the game. He did not have the statistical day that Martavius did, but he helped. I mean, he played great. For a senior to go on the road, he played great. We had a lot of 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s. We ran downhill runs with him, and sometimes there were dirty looks, and he plowed ahead to get the first downs. He was also big, in protections, and did some other things that are not on the stat sheet for our team. So he kept drives alive on critical 3rd and shorts. He's our bigger back, and he does a good job. His ball security was great. I thought for a senior on the road, he played great. He hit the spot every single time, and in those situations, that's where you need guys to play well. Our seniors on offense, I thought, played extremely well. You talk about Matt Williams stepping up and really having a great game, and Aaron Cox and running the ball the way we did. And we don't have a lot of seniors on the offensive side of the ball, but our seniors on that side of the ball came up with a Grand Valley championship effort when they needed it on the road. I think probably looking back on the tape, we were a little disappointed in the first half with some of our seniors on defense. They definitely came in on Sunday. We have Tell the Truth Sunday. We got after our seniors a little bit on the defensive side of the ball because I don't know that they played up to our or their expectation. in the first half, and that was a very humbling experience, and they showed some humility. So I know that group. I've been around that group. I expect them to bounce back. I expect you'll see our defense here on Saturday really flying around, because in the first half, I don't know that we were playing up to, our expectation level necessarily. But it was good to see us respond, and once we made those adjustments at halftime and came out, we only gave up 3 points in the second half. We did get a couple turnovers. We forced those turnovers, and we really played aggressive in the second half. And so really over the span now, that was our 8th game for us to have maybe one bad half on the defensive side of the ball. And it wasn't, complete meltdown, but it wasn't maybe up to our standard. I think it's saying something too, and I'm glad. I'm glad you come up with a win, and you could take a look at that tape, and definitely, that crew will be motivated on Saturday. I'm pretty sure of that.
Well, and you talk about the seniors on the offensive side of the ball, and Alton Voss made a big play on the defensive side. Now, I think, as you mentioned, one of the offensive linemen ran into Chance Stewart, but a bend but don't break type of goal line stand. Talk about that. I think it was 3rd and goal, 2nd and goal maybe.
Third down,
and Voss comes up with the big fumble recovery. That was a huge play at that time in the game. It may not look like it now with an 18-point margin of difference, but at that point in the game, that was massive.
Oh, you're dead on it. That was a huge play. First down, they ran the ball, got a couple yards. I tell you, on second down, they ran a toss, and when the ball was initially snapped, it looked like it was going to go, but we went in there and got low on Reverman, and we had some guys driving back, including redshirt freshman Jalen Harden drove him back, which got us to 3rd down, and then we jumped into a front, into a front that I don't think they had necessarily been ready for, and the guard pulled out, and he hit the quarterback a little bit early, and the ball's on the ground, and we got on it, and that was just a great goal line stand, great red zone defense, and good job with preparation by our team being ready for that situation.
Coach, when we come back, we're going to bring Jack Yin in with us. He's your associate head coach, been on the staff for 8 years. This year he handles the wide receivers. Last couple of years he's handled the wide receivers. And as we talked before, strength and conditioning. Talk about Coach again before he comes on.
Wears a lot of different hats in our program. Jack and I are assistants together, and now he's in charge of our wide receivers, does a lot with our strength and conditioning, which is one of the big things that I think we've improved upon over the course of time. And then is also the most veteran coach on the staff, and so really assists me as a head coach for some big picture things. And it's been a really great relationship, and I know he's got some really quality players that he likes coaching that are making some plays right now, so it's always a lot more fun to be a wideout coach when you got some guys that can run around and make some plays.
Absolutely.
And he's got a good group of receivers right now.
Well, we'll bring him in when we come back. Jack Yin will join us here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. We're live at the Main Street Pub in Allendale, and you're listening to the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Great job right there by Brendan back in the studio to cue up that Alton Voss fumble recovery you just talked about. One of the key plays in Grand Valley State's 35-17 victory over Hillsdale last week on the road. The Lakers move to 8-0 on the year. They'll be back at home this weekend in Lever Stadium to take on Findlay at 7 p.m. It's Kids Day, so all kids get in free, so make sure they come out to the game this weekend. Back here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. I'm DJ Foster, and we're now bringing in associate head coach Jack Yin. Coach, how we doing?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm great. 8th year on the staff, associate head coach, wide receiver coach, strength and conditioning. Coach Mitchell said you wear a bunch of hats, but you're kind of the veteran. You've been around just as long as anybody, and this team is off to a pretty good start. What are your thoughts with your position group, especially? You've got some talented guys in the wide receiver room.
We have a really deep group. We have a very unselfish group, which is somewhat unusual with receivers. We really don't care. I think it was after game 3 or 4 on Sunday. I brought them in, pulled up the statistics, and I said, hey, bad news. Nobody's going to be catching 70 balls this year.
Right.
It's not going to be about any individual, and they've embraced that. We play usually 5 guys, 4 to 5 guys, pretty regularly, and we have a lot of guys that I think can contribute. They just haven't gotten a chance. Our system kind of runs better with a 4 or 5 man rotation, and that's kind of what we've been using. So it's gone great. It's been a lot of fun. I have a good group of guys that work hard, and they compete, and they enjoy each other. So that always makes it more fun.
Well, and with your 4 main guys, and we're talking Matt Williams, Brandon Bean, Erston Smith, and Nick Dodson, they all bring something different to the table. They can all hurt you in different ways. One maybe have better hands, one better speed, one better route running. When you are watching film early in the week of your upcoming opponent, is there something that you're looking for defensively that you say, Matt Williams might have a big game this week, or Brandon Bean, there's something we can do here? Is there a matchup? Is there something you're trying to exploit when you're game planning for the week ahead?
Yeah, I'm the person that, I'm the guy in the breakdown that worries about personnel. So I watch defenses based on people. They can play whatever coverage they want. At some point, every coverage becomes one-on-one. So I learned that from my college coach. He coached for 45 years in college football, and he used to tell me that at some point every coverage becomes one-on-one. And so we try to find, how to make things one-on-one, and then get our guys in matchups that we like. And we do have a diverse group. They're not none of them are the same. They all have different strengths and weaknesses, and we try to find ways to get our strengths against the defender's weaknesses. And I'm always the guy in our staff room that's looking at the people and what this guy does well and what he doesn't do well, and let's attack what they don't do well.
Yeah, and exactly. That's a good personnel matchup there, and kind of exploit that. How have you seen your position group kind of grow throughout the year? Not necessarily maybe one guy in general, but maybe the group as a whole. How have they gotten better?
I think we've gotten better at not getting down. I think missed opportunities don't affect us. We just go on to the next play, which we have a thing in our program with Tell the Truth Sunday that Coach Mitchell likes to call it, and we'll deal with the negatives on Sunday. We'll coach and make corrections and all that on Sunday, but while the game's going on, there's no sense harping on a missed opportunity. Just load up the next one and let's go after it and keep playing. And so I think my group has done a really good job of that, because it is it's somewhat like being the goalie in hockey or soccer that, nobody really notices till you drop a wide open ball or something. And we've dropped 3 of them against Hillsdale. It doesn't do any good for me to tell Matt Williams, hey, you got to catch that ball. He knows that.
Right.
So we just try to go on and play the next play on Saturdays, and then Sundays we'll come in and try to get better. And I think my group's done a good job of embracing that.
Here with Associate Head Coach Jack Yin on the GVSU Football Weekly Report. This segment is presented by Earhart Construction, the official construction company of the Grand Valley Sports Network. Coach Mitchell obviously said that you're in charge of the strength and conditioning, and we were talking before we came on the air, knock on wood, you guys have been pretty healthy this year, and obviously that some of that goes back to the strength and conditioning. How did you get in charge of that? How have you kind of taken that role and made it your own? Because certainly our guys look pretty strong and pretty well conditioned.
I've been coaching college football for about 30 years, and for 20 of those I've been the strength coach. So when I came here, I was not the strength coach, and then some things shifted around, and I got an opportunity to do it, and I wanted to do it. I love it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the time and the science of it, and I enjoy being around the players year round. It's really an advantage, I think, for me to be around them during the off season, and then I've stayed in that role. I think we have taken just as we try to improve as football coaches, we've tried to improve our strength and conditioning and the health and injury prevention and the health of our players, and teaching them how to take care of themselves. That has really, we've really increased that the last 2 or 3 years, and I think we're starting to reap the benefits of that. So one of the most important parts of our strength and conditioning program is how can you line a guy up for 4 months of the football season and have him make it through it. And yeah, that's worked, and we've done some different things. We've really made some drastic changes in what we do. And I'm an old guy, kind of old school, and I've learned that in the past few years, well, maybe we were messing that up for the last 25 years. Let's try it this way. And so far, all those decisions have worked pretty well.
Well, real quick before we let you go, what does that entail in season? Because obviously you're planning for the next opponent. It's not the summer where you can just kind of work on your conditioning and strength. So how does that go throughout the week and on a daily basis? Is there like a repeated theme every week that you go through?
Oh, yeah. We have time. We lift twice a week. And believe it or not, one of the biggest things I think we've done, and I'll credit Coach Mitchell with this more than myself, but we do yoga.
Wow.
On Sundays. So when our guys get done playing on Saturday, the next physical thing they do is our version of yoga. Now,
how does that differ from regular yoga?
I don't know. I've never been to a regular yoga
Okay, so
class.
You don't know that. Okay.
No, I'm not a yoga person really, but it's it's an elongated stretching movement mobility routine. Takes about 20-25 minutes, and then we lift. So on Sunday, and then our players are off on Monday. So things like that we do, and our players, they like it. We get good feedback, and so we've done some different things here. We've done some different things this fall that they seem to have liked, and we've made some good decisions, good educated decisions in those areas.
I like it. I'm not very flexible. I may come out and join you this Sunday if you can.
Sunday, yeah. See Mitch. He'll give you the times you can come in with us.
Sounds great.
Yoga it up.
That'd be a great one. That's Associate Head Coach Jack Inn joining us on the show. Coach, thanks so much. Great job so far, and we wish you a continued success and health the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Associate Head Coach Jack Inn joining us here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. When we come back, we'll bring Head Coach Matt Mitchell back in. We'll start looking at the Findlay Oilers. Again, Grand Valley State hosts Findlay this Saturday night at 7 p.m. in Lover Stadium. This is the GVSU Football Weekly Report on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
And welcome back to the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Head Coach Matt Mitchell. I'm DJ Foster. Before we get back into Laker football, we're going to talk some Grand Valley State basketball real quick as the Laker basketball teams tip off in just a few weeks. You can catch your first glance of this year's teams at the GVSU Basketball Bash next Thursday, November 3rd. It's their version of Midnight Madness and will include contests with the teams and players, interaction with the fans in attendance, and the first 500 students will receive free T-shirts. So coming out to the Fieldhouse Arena on Thursday, November 3rd. That's next Thursday night at 7 p.m. for the Basketball Bash. It's all presented by Enclave. And a related note, you can also listen to the Lakers this season on ESPN 96.1 FM, your new home for Grand Valley State men's basketball. We bring head football coach Matt Mitchell back in now as we just, thanks to head coach or associate head coach Jack Inn for joining us on the show. And Mitch, let's start looking ahead to Findlay as the Oilers come in 4-4 overall. They're listed 4-4 in conference play. Their losses are to all good teams: Ohio Dominican, Ashland, Ferris State, Wayne State. Three of those teams are in the regional rankings, which we'll talk about later. So they don't have any bad losses. They got a good win at Tiffin last week. As we had mentioned, Tiffin had a chance to conceivably go 9-2 this year, and Findlay got a good win there. They beat Hillsdale, and they beat Saginaw Valley State, who's having a good year as well. So what's the first thing you think about when we're talking about the Findlay Oilers?
Explosive offense. They have a lot of veteran players at the offensive positions. Reese Gervais is their quarterback. Reese, we played against Reese last year too, but Reese is a transfer from Western Illinois. A very live arm. This league this year is loaded with quarterbacks. I mean, we have so many great quarterbacks in this conference, and Reese would fall into that category. He can really spin it, and does a really good job, throwing the ball around. They're tops in most of the, I think top 2 or 3 in most of the passing statistics within the GLIAC. They have a really good wide receiver that did not play against us last year, who's leading their team in receptions. He was injured last year. So watching the tape, he's one of the best wideouts in the league. And they put him into the boundary, and he goes to work on some people. And then Chauncey Bridges, their tailback. He's originally from Michigan. We took a look at him in the recruiting process. He's a home run hitter type tailback. So, if he gets into the back end of your defense, if he forces through to the secondary, he's, got speed. He's got elusive ability to kind of make you pay. 2 weeks ago in Hillsdale, he was named the GLIAC Offensive Player of the Week in our conference. He's a very productive back. So they do a good job, on the offensive side of the ball. As you mentioned, this is schedule they've had has been a really, really tough schedule. They've had to play at Ashland, ODU. They played Ferris. Like, I'm sure the coaches at both squads would say they probably should have beat Ferris at home. They missed some field goals, missed some opportunities, outgained them, and they're on a hot streak right now. They've won 2 in a row. They put it to Hillsdale. They're up 40-0 at one point on Hillsdale in the third quarter, and then last week, a Tiffin squad who I thought had the possibility of maybe going 9-2. They went to Tiffin and beat Tiffin at Tiffin, and got a really big road win with a rivalry. So I think their offense has been productive the whole time. I think the unit that's gotten better progressively as 2016 has unfolded has been their defense. They have an athletic secondary. I think that's probably the strength of their defense. They have some good athletes in the back end of the defense. And I have a lot of respect for Rob Keyes. We've known each other in the league. I think one of his first wins as a head coach was in 2011. They came here and forced 6 turnovers and beat us. And, I've worked some camps with him. I was at a 2-day camp this summer, and we worked together. And, I think he's a really good coach. He's a defensive-minded coach like myself. And, I think it's a solid football team. So you could tell on tape, even though, they're 4-4, that they're playing with a tremendous amount of pride. And that's obviously derived from their staff. And, this is the last time, unless we can schedule them non-conference, which, to be honest with you, they're probably one of the few teams that wouldn't, shy away from a non-conference matchup. But they're moving into that new conference. And this will be the last time we'll probably play Findlay. They're gonna come. They're gonna have a lot of juice. They're gonna have a lot of energy. So I think it's a big test and, a good game for our defense. I think if there's one advantage that we know where Reese Gervais is going to be, is not a quarterback that's going to be the type of guy that is like a Reggie Bell from Ferris or something that's going to move around a lot, or Antonio Pipkin from Tiffin. He's back in the pocket and they protect him and he throws it around. So know where the launch point is, and we're going to have to win. We're going to have to win on some one-on-one matchups on the outside, against their wide receivers, and we're going to have some of our defensive line linebackers going to have to win against some of their down guys, and get after them a little bit. So it's going to be a game that, it's one of those deals like records are kind of meaningless to me. I take a look at the tape. The tape don't lie. You are what you put on tape. That's us and the opponent. And this is a team that has an explosive offense, and I think in the building, our football center, we have respect for.
This is the opponent breakdown brought to you by Ken Equipment Solutions that turn work into play. We're talking about the Findlay Oilers with head coach Matt Mitchell on the GVSU Football Weekly Report. So they lost 4 out of 5 after a season-opening win against Saginaw Valley State. And obviously we mentioned they've lost to good teams. It's not like they lost to any bad opponents. But what have they done these last couple weeks that really you're starting to look at it? I mean, you said they were up 40-0 against Hillsdale. They beat a good Tiffin team. What have they kind of got going these last couple of weeks to get those victories?
Well, I think on the offensive side of the ball, they're getting the run game going. They definitely have got Chauncey, out in the open a little bit more, so their running game has improved. Defensively, they have a really tight box. I mean, they're compressed, extremely compressed in there. And what's happened is because of some changes in personnel, and I also think some changes in the way in which they're coaching some, technique. They've been able to, shut some people down in some one-on-one matchups on the outside. They put their corners And their safeties in some positions where they've had to, win some one-on-one matchups in the last couple of weeks. They've done a really good job of that, and their defense played really good against Tiffin. That's a tough offense to defend, and they really got after Antonio Pipkin and forced a lot of bad throws and pressures and kind of got him off balance a little bit. So they affected the quarterback last week was probably the biggest reason that they won that game at Tiffin.
And you mentioned with Reese Gervais, more of a drop-back passer, a little different than, as you mentioned, Antonio Pipkin and Reggie Bell, guys that you've faced before. Is that appealing to your defense, those guys knowing that, hey, as long as we can get past the offensive line, we should be able to get in the backfield and force some trouble?
Yeah, I think there's a yin and a yang to it. I think that obviously the good part about it is you know where he's going to be. There's some – you know where the pocket's going to be. You know they're going to do it. And they do a little bit of, some sprint outs and stuff. But the most part, you know, is going to be. The difference is when you have some of those mobile quarterbacks, there may just be one read, one guy. They run a passing game that I think is more similar to our passing game, in which it's a full 53 1/3 wide passing game, and they can stretch it vertically however far they're backed up. If they're on the 2-yard line, it's 98 yards. So they have the ability to, use the entire field in their passing game, and they'll use a lot of wide receivers. So it's some legitimate passing concepts, where they're reading coverages and they're trying to get the ball based on what the coverage is doing. So that puts a little bit more stress on you. Sometimes you face those other quarterbacks, like it's one read, and if it's not there, they take off running. Mm-hmm. It's that type of situation. You can tell there's definitely a progression with how they do things, and that forces you. You can't just sit the back and run one coverage. You got to be a little bit more versatile and multiple, and try to do the best job you can to try to give a little bit of pre-snap confusion for them with the passing game.
It's the Findlay Oilers in our opponent breakdown. When we come back after this 90-second break, we're going to look ahead to the keys to the game against the Findlay Oilers. Again, this Saturday night in Lubber Stadium, 7 p.m. start. Grand Valley State leading Division II in total attendance, average attendance, all the attendance figures. So come on out. It's Kids Day this Saturday night in Allendale. Coming back for more of the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. It's presented by GVSUTeamShop.com right here on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
That was Bart Williams to Matt Williams for 55 yards. A quick one-play drive. Took all of 11 seconds to put the Lakers up by 11 last week at Hillsdale. They win 35-17 to move to 8-0 for the first time since 2008. Is that correct, Coach?
Yeah, that's accurate. 8-0 since 2008.
There we go. So we're back here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. I'm DJ Foster. Dante Carey, senior defensive back, will be joining us in just a little bit. We'll be also talking about the first regional rankings coming out. Those are obviously of some importance to us, NCAA playoff projections. And all that good stuff. But it's time for the keys to the game now, presented by Fox Motors, only the best. And Mitch, we talked about Findlay last segment and the opponent breakdown. What are the keys to defeating the Oilers? Hands down, I'd say the number one statistic I'll take a look back upon will be explosive play differential. So we define an explosive play as a run over 12 or a pass over 16. Got that from the Seahawks a couple years ago when I headed out there. So it's you take a look at a lot of the metrics in football right now. Explosive play differential, a lot of people are saying, is the number one metric in regards to wins. And, there's a study done with FBS football about it and how important it is. So, every game it's important, but I would say specifically this game it's extremely important given the fact that you're talking about an explosive offense that really likes to throw the ball and do some things. And then, conversely, the way in which they really stop the run. I mean, they're really committed with hats down in the box and the way they play to stop the run. We're going to have to make some plays. We're going to have to make some explosive plays. I don't know that we're going to be able to grind out, an 8-play, 81-yard drive like we did against Hillsdale. That's, I don't know if that's realistic. So we got
we had some guys win. Some of our guys on the outside win. So if we can limit the number of big chunk explosive plays that they have, and we can get some, then we're probably going to put ourselves in a good position. If we're giving up explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball, whether it's big chunk runs to Chauncey Bridges, or their quarterback throwing it all over the yard and giving up big plays, then we're going to lose. So that's one thing. I still think back to 2011 when they came in here and beat us. We turned the ball over 6 times that game. We just coughed the ball up, and they took it from us on a couple snaps. They had a safety that was really good, and so I think that'll obviously be a factor in the thing too, would be that. And then when we're looking at, the home crowd and getting back to Leber Stadium and how our schedule is finishing up, we have to get off to a fast start. This has been a very good atmosphere, a very good, home game advantage for us so far in 2016. I mean, you take a look at our games, our home games, the 5 games we've had at home. We've came out firing. I mean, I think the atmosphere has been awesome, and we've got off to some really fast starts on both sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams, and we've really had explosive first quarters. And we need the same thing this week. So, it gets a little bit colder and those type of things, but the fan support is really, really critical to us. The Jumbotron, the fireworks, everything that plays into the home field advantage, that's got to show up too, and our guys got to play with a lot of emotion, and I'm positive that they will.
Well, and it's Kids Day this weekend, this Saturday night, so bundle them up, bring them out. It's also the biggest Halloween costume contest in West Michigan. I'm sure you can't participate in that. Maybe the kids can.
No, probably not. But I would imagine, don't know, but we have the largest video board in Division II. I imagine if you have a good costume on, I bet it'll find its way up on the video board. That's even more motivation to come out. You can be on the largest D2 scoreboard ever.
That's pretty good. And as the stat of the day that I found earlier, and of the top 10 single game attendances for on-campus games this year, Division II, you have 5 of actually the top 9. So every game you guys have played has been one of the top ones in Division II on-campus sites. So you mentioned the atmosphere is just tremendous. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it never gets old. Like I said, I've been here 13 years, and when I got here, it was a grass field, and boom, boom. We've dropped that thing down, put in an officer. We've made so many advancements and enhancements to our home stadium, but it never gets old. At some point you settle into the game and you kind of focus on the game. But I know, even as a coach who's been down the sideline now for 13 years, you kind of go out there. It's a pretty cool experience. When we come back, we will talk with senior defensive back Dante Carey, who just hopped in, and we'll bring him in after this break. It's a GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. We're live from the Main Street Pub in Allendale, and we're live here on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Back here in the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. I'm DJ Foster. We're live from the Main Street Pub in Allendale. It's time for our player interview brought to you by Country Dairy, the official milk of GVSU Athletics. Coach Mitchell, you have a senior defensive back with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, DJ. Joined by senior defensive back Dante Carey. Dante is a product of Grand Rapids Public Schools, went to Ottawa Hills High School, so West Michigan native. Talk to me a little bit about the recruiting process and why you ultimately chose to sign with Grand Valley State.
Okay, growing up in Grand Rapids, you always hear about Grand Valley football. Obviously, seeing them play on ESPN when I was younger, that played a part in it. Actually, my first college football game ever going to was a Grand Valley football game. As a kid, I came and I received the jersey, and I will always remember just running around in the jersey playing football with my friends and, thought I could play there.
Yeah. But what age was that when you came out here, would you say?
I had to be around 12, 13.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, The recruiting process, what was I know you had those experiences when you were a kid and stuff like that, but at the time when you really had to pull the trigger, what was the biggest thing you would say?
I would say coming to the games and hearing you speak before the games, I could tell that you really cared about the recruits as people and not just coming here to play football. You spoke on making them better people, making them better citizens, and that's something that, really brought me in. And
then, of course, your career, just for the fans, Dante started out as a corner and played a lot of corner, was always a guy on special teams that played on all 4 special teams, made a lot of plays on special teams here. And then the last couple years, based on our depth at that position, our depth at corner position, we've moved Dante to a safety. Now he's playing our free safety and really has taken off at that role and done a great job. So just talk to the fans a little bit, in the huddle, the differences between, playing a corner and playing a safety and what your experiences have been in both of those positions.
Well, it's a major difference. Playing corner, you really don't have as much responsibility. I should say you're on one side of the field, and, you have 3 coverages, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3. Playing safety, you're responsible for the whole defense. You making the checks, you basically running the defense. If you see something, you have to, make a check, and you basically have to run the defense. So I would say the biggest difference is just the responsibility.
And, I think as you look back upon the special teams, too, you've had a big impact on special teams. I don't know if a lot of people know, but your brother, Don Carey, has been just a special teams all-star with the Detroit Lions and have been there for a number. How many years has he been with the Lions now?
This is 8th year.
8th year with the Lions. And so you have some there. Talk a little bit about, him and the special teams thing and just overall some of those influences.
Okay. As far as him as a player, I won't say that he really helps me as a player because we have our schemes, they have theirs. But his approach to the game, I would say helped me as a special team player. Every time I call him, he's watching film. He's looking at what he has to do. He's looking at the other players, how they're going to double team him from a gunner spot on point. So I would just say his approach, just being a professional.
And your time here, you've absolutely killed it academically, and I'm very impressed with the strides you've made just from a GPA and academic standpoint. So talk a little bit about what your major is, and, as you start to finish up here, I think you're going to receive your degree in December. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Talk about what that degree will be in and what you hope to do with it when you're done.
Coming into Grand Valley, academics is something that I really want to focus on because, as you know, in high school, I wasn't the best when it came to academics. So, when I got here, it was something that I really wanted to focus on and never have be a problem. So, I just kind of took it serious as I got here, being in the study table and, just using my time wisely. The biggest thing will have to be time management. Going from having to go to school and everything is structured for you to being a freshman here where you have to kind of carve out time in between practices and sleep and doing homework and, getting things done.
And since you brought it up, I'll throw it out there. Dante has a higher GPA in college than he did in high school, and I think that's a lot of credit to you and your how you've approached things and you've attacked things and your level. So what's your degree going to be in, and what do you hope to do when you're done?
My degree is going to be in criminal justice. After I'm done, I'm hoping to work as a probation officer or a police officer, whichever one I feed into first.
What's different about this 2016 team maybe than some other teams you've played on?
I would say the approach, the togetherness. I mean, there's really not much different. I would just say that we put it all together.
Good. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know done a lot over the course of time, and it's not just the stuff on the field and the real credit. And I use Dante a lot of the example with our younger players in terms of what you can achieve and what you can get done. So I appreciate everything you've done. Thanks for coming on, and good luck on Saturday.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
That's senior defensive back Dante Carey joining us here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell. When we come back after this break, we'll look at the team landscape. We'll kind of look at the around the GLIAC standings, but also the regional rankings. The first one came out earlier this week. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on the GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell, live on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Welcome back into the GVSU Football Weekly Report. DJ Foster here with head coach Matt Mitchell. Thanks to associate head coach Jack Yin and Dante Carey for joining us earlier on in the show. And now let's go ahead and look at the team landscape. This segment brought to you by Modern Office, brings spaces to life. And coach, something that I know a lot of our fans, maybe more so than even you guys, are interested in is the first playoff rankings came out. The regional rankings, there's 4 regions, 10 teams ranked in every region. The top 7, that's a change from the last couple of years. Last year was the first year actually that it switched to 7 teams instead of 6. Top 7 teams from each region will make the playoffs. And in the first rankings, the Super Region 4, you guys are the number 1 team in the rankings. Ashland is 4th, Wayne State is 6th, Ferris State is 9th. So if the playoffs started today, you would have a first round bye. Ashland would be in and Wayne State would be in. Obviously, you play Wayne State in a few weeks, so that's certainly interesting for both teams because that could jump or drop people. Anything that surprised you when the first rankings came out on Monday?
Not really. You know, I think there's some misconception about regional rankings at the NCAA Division II level. I think it's people need to understand it's very cut and dried. It's based on your win-loss percentage. That's the first thing, and then strength of schedule, and then there's some other things that take a look at beyond that. So it's not a group of people sitting in a room, twisting their beards and making arbitrary decisions. It's pretty straightforward, When we look at the regional rankings, we're the only undefeated team in our region right now, so that's why we're number 1. And then it's a series of one-loss teams after that, and really those series of one-loss teams are based on their winning percentage and their strength of schedule and head-to-head competition and some things that they've played, and then you just continue to go on down. So when you're dealing with regions, you have to understand that we have the GLV, the Lone Star, the RMAC. There was a couple times that some opponents play each other, like we played Truman State. But for the most part, things are interconference in terms of the competition. And so consequently, people say, well, this team would beat this team. Well, we don't know that. We're not poring over tape and making decisions based on tape. The decisions are based on results. They're based on how many games you win and things like that. So that's a big picture view. I think most people know me at times. I can have a dry sense of humor and kind of be condescending. So when I came into the team meeting on Tuesday, I said, hey, congratulations, guys. I don't know if you know this, but we're number 1 in regional rankings. So when we get done with practice, there's going to be a big party up at the field house. There's going to be a band. There's going to be food and beverage, and you'll be allowed to take your victory lap around the entire thing and get all the adoration from all the fans and everybody within our athletic department. And then I told them that's not really going to happen because this doesn't matter.
Anybody cheer?
It's inconsequential.
Right.
So stop talking about it and let's get on to Findlay and let everybody else that's got some time in their hand pour over those numbers and whatever. I know, as opposed to maybe some other years where, we had to do some scoreboard watching and check out some other stuff that was happening in the region. The only scoreboard I have to watch is the Grand Valley scoreboard. Right. That's the only one I'm concerned with right now.
And that's cool that you control your own destiny. You win, you get to do what you need, and you would hopefully have a first-round playoff bye. And I think some people don't realize, too, they don't look at the name. They don't look at Grand Valley. They look at Ferris State. They look at the numbers.
Correct.
It's Team X, it's Team Y,
100%.
it's Team Z.
Yep, 100%.
So there's no favoritism showed towards a certain school.
It's very objective. It's
Right.
not subjective. It's very, very objective. And that's the way the system is set up. And you can argue that, but it doesn't matter. Unless you're going to go down to the NCAA in Indianapolis and sit out on the lawn and picket it, this is the nature of how these things are done. There's methods put in place, and at the end of the day, like I said, even when we were 9-2 and trying to fight again, stop complaining and win your games. That's
right.
You know what I mean? Win your games. And so I've been there. We've been there. We were 9-2 and we had to have some things happen last year. I get that, but you control your own destiny. And we're in a position since we're 8-0 to control our destiny within the region also.
And speaking of that, just the one game we'll look at this week. These regional rankings come out every Monday, and they could drastically change by next week as Wayne State and Ferris State play this Saturday in Big Rapids, 1 p.m. Wayne State number 6 in the rankings, Ferris State just out at number 9. So whoever wins that one is going to have a much better shot of making the playoffs.
100%. That's a big game for not only our conference but also when you talk about NCAA playoffs. And Wayne State has had a great season. They lost to Ashland early, and since then they've gone. Now I would say Wayne has got a pretty tough schedule coming up. They're at Ferris, they're at Ohio Dominican, and they've got Grand Valley at home. So the last 3 games you're going to know exactly what their season is all about. But they're playing great defense up there. They have a great run game. Romello Brown is one of the top backs within our conference, and I think that's going to be a really good matchup. Ferris State's defensive line and front is good. And you're talking strength on strength when you take a look at Wayne State's rushing attack versus Ferris State's defense. And then on the flip side, Reggie Bell's he's a really good player, and he's hard to defend. You got him on your home turf, and the Wayne defense is an active pressuring defense. It'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes too. So that's a game that will have huge implications for both programs in terms of the postseason. If Ferris loses that game, it's very unlikely probably they're getting into the playoffs. And, if Wayne were to lose, that puts 2 losses on them with some tough games coming down the road. And, they're going to have to really be ready to go. It's kind of a win-or-go-home situation to a certain extent for both teams.
That's our team landscape segment. When we come back after this 90-second break, we'll wrap up the show. It's a GVSU Football Weekly Report with head coach Matt Mitchell right here on the Grand Valley Sports Network.
We were born here. We grew up here. Raised our kids here. Went to school here. We live here. We are the home team.
Back here for the final time in the GVSU Football Weekly Report here, live from the Main Street Pub in Allendale. Great turnout by the Laker fans this week, and we hope to see them again at Lubber Stadium on Saturday night for a 7 p.m. start against Findlay. Before we wrap things up, we'd like to thank one of our fine sponsors, Allendale True Value. Behind every project is a true value. And Coach, we talked a little bit earlier. It's Kids Day this Saturday night. Your kids are here. They're running around somewhere. Halloween obviously coming up. We discussed it at the luncheon, the press conference on Monday. Potential costumes. I don't know if you'll have one next Monday for Halloween. What are your kids going as? Is there anything you're hoping to see this weekend with the biggest Halloween costume contest in West Michigan?
Well, I mean, my wife's in charge of all domestic matters, so I'm not sure exactly what's on deck for our kids. But
Okay.
I'm just looking at get out there and kind of student section especially. Let's come with something creative. I thought we'd see some Mario and Luigi, some references to
Sure.
some old school stuff. So as long as there's no politics involved, no Hillary or Trump costumes, I'm good with about anything else that's out there.
What's the candy at the Mitchell household that's given out for Halloween?
That's
Do
a
you
touchy
stay away?
subject. That's a touchy subject, DJ.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan of Reese's peanut butter cups, so hopefully we have some of those and nobody takes them, so we have leftovers on Sunday.
There you go. I like that. That's good stuff. All right, well, that's going to wrap us up here. We're again, Kids Day this Saturday night, 7 p.m. against Findlay. That'll be at Lubber Stadium. Big thanks to Associate Head Coach Jack Ginn, Senior Defensive Back Dante Carey for joining us. For Head Coach Matt Mitchell, I'm DJ Foster. Grand Valley State and Findlay this Saturday night, 7 p.m. in Lubber Stadium. This is the GVSU Football Weekly Report with Matt Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a good weekend, and go Lakers.